Here we go. Okay, good morning. Good morning to everybody who is watching us on LinkedIn, YouTube, probably Facebook as well. And we're happy to be with you on this rainy Wednesday morning here in Tokyo. The weather, for some reason, is not so good today, but at the same time, it's cooler than yesterday and it feels much, much easier to breathe. We can do that much better than yesterday. And today, I would like to introduce to you a guest speaker who is with us for the first time. His name is Marc Cellucci, and I'm sure that some of you may have already worked with him or communicated with him on LinkedIn, maybe other platforms as well, or met him somewhere in Tokyo because there are so many networking events in this beautiful city. And well, today we're going to talk about Marc's journey from the gaming industry through, well, owning a company and then also setting up a startup and working on it as well. AI platforms, gaming platforms, and also applications. So welcome, Marc, welcome, and thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to talk with you. I look forward to it.
Well, thank you for this. And for those of you who haven't met Marc yet, he is basically currently, the president of the Tokyo branch of Next Vision. Next Vision. It is formerly Mission One, a company that has been operating in Tokyo for a while. And Marc has been there for a while too, but during our conversation, he's going to tell you a little bit more about that and what he's up to. Hopefully, this information will be helpful for everybody who is keen on setting up a startup or doing a startup right now. But I don't want to keep talking, Marc. So
No, go ahead, please. You're doing a great job.
I want you to share your story here.
Sure.
And well, I know from you personally that you came to Japan like 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
And yes, my question to you, of course, is why did you decide to make the move to Japan? Because you
Yeah.
States, you had your job there. What drove you to this country?
Yeah, that's great. A good question. So let me I'll take you back to my early days very quickly. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, so I may say y'all from time to time. Fair
Okay.
warning. And then I went to Texas A&M University, got degrees in journalism and international studies. And when I was there doing the international studies stuff, I made a really good friend, a Japanese guy. And we graduated at the same time, way back in 1998. And when we graduated, like I didn't have any plans. I didn't have a job lined up or anything. He was like, well, why don't you come out to Japan for a while? Sure. Yeah, I'll do that. So I spent a month up in Fukushima. And I instantly fell in love with the place. I was like, oh, it's good. This is great. Nice food, clean, safe, nice people, interesting culture. So I really liked it. And then after that, I was fortunate to get a job at SEGA, the video game company in America, specifically SEGA.com in San Francisco, making websites and web backbones and stuff for this piece of hardware called the Dreamcast. And during that time, I had some opportunities to go to Japan. And each time I went to Japan, I started like feeling it more and more. And then, Sega being a Japanese company, thought, you know what? While I'm young, if I really sat down and learned Japanese, it would be a skill that nobody could take from me.
Right.
So I quit Sega, which sometimes I still wonder if that was the right choice. Well, I went back to Sega, so it was fine. But and I for 2 years I went to a language school in Sendai, which is in the north of Japan,
Yeah.
full time. I was a full-time student, and you need that, I think, to learn this language. You need to sit if you want to learn the kanji, if you want to learn the grammar, if you want to be able to work in this environment, especially back then where nobody spoke English. In any company, pretty much. You really needed to have that. And so after those 2 years, I passed the JLPT1, which is the highest level of the
Right.
Japanese language proficiency test. And then I went from there. My career, I joined a company called Koei for a year. And then Sega called me back, and I worked at Sega of Japan for 2 years. And then I got tired of the Japanese corporate culture, but maybe that's another question. I think Did I answer your original question, or am I just bad?
Yes, you did, you did. And yes, I was also going to have a question down the, a little bit
Oh,
later about the Japanese corporate culture,
oh,
of course, because yes, I mean, everybody who has been here and worked for, well, a Japanese organization at some point gets tired of that corporate culture.
yeah.
Right. But at the same time, it's funny because, yeah, me too. I came to Japan almost at the same time when you did. And then I worked for different Japanese organizations, and I worked for one of them for 14 years. And in the beginning, I loved that learning experience, I would call it, because it was very different, right? The corporate culture is, I mean, it's a different world.
It is.
And yes, but at some point you realize that you learn how to navigate it. You learn how to work there and communicate with your
Put up with it.
colleagues. Yes, put up with it as well, and so on. But yeah, at the same time, it becomes tiring. And yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder just what became so tiring for you there, or maybe something that you weren't ready to put up, or you didn't want to put up with anymore.
Yeah, there are several things. One, when I was there at Sega of Japan, I was a producer and producing video games. A toy maker, right? Making toys,
Right.
digital
Yes.
toys,
Yes.
but and that should be fun. But when you're doing tons of paperwork and when you're having meetings to talk about scheduling other meetings, which is a big thing here. And love their meetings.
Mm.
And when you feel like this really rigid hierarchy and you feel the glass ceiling, and at that time there were still long hours. There weren't rules against that when I was there. Now I didn't work those as long of hours as a lot of the like the Japanese people in that company. There were people who had sleeping bags under their desks. Okay,
Yeah.
that's just not healthy, right? And
Mm.
then I just felt I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. I got tired of having to clear everything with multiple layers of people. That's any corporation is going to be like that to a degree, but it was just so rigid, and so unwilling to change and try new things, which was never. Sega was always trying new things, but then they got burned too many times, and they became kind of a
Oh,
traditional style. So it was just enough things kind of built up to where. One other thing is, you have to make tons of documents and PowerPoints to show them to your boss that'll
mm.
he or she will look at them for a minute or two. You spent hours on it, look at it for a minute or two, and then that's it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, my time is valuable too. And so I just enough was enough, and I flipped the table over and said, screw this, I'm out.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
how it went.
And then, so you also mentioned that you learned Japanese full time for 2 years.
Right.
So, and I entirely agree with you. If you want to work here in this country, regardless of whether you work for a Japanese organization or your own one, right?
Right.
Then you do need the language. You need the level of proficiency that allows you to communicate with local partners and customers and everything fluently. But do you feel that learning Japanese somehow changed your perspective of, you know, working here in Japan and maybe also living here in Japan?
Well,
Both.
sure. Yeah. I mean, with the living part for sure, because when you come here and if you don't know the language at all, I mean, you're in a different world and you have to start from the beginning, a, I, U, A, O, and hiragana and all of that. And you feel like a little kid. You can't order a pizza by yourself, and so but if you're studying at an intensive pace, the world around you starts unfolding. You start being able to read things. You start being able to say, understand what's being said to you first. The words don't come out, but then the words start coming out. And then actually interesting, thoughtful words start coming out. And so lifestyle wise, for sure. As far as work goes, yeah, I entered the Japanese workforce after I'd gone through that program. So I can't really say if if there's a difference between being a non-speaker and a speaker. But that said, I can say that, especially back then, maybe it's a little better now, but if you can't speak Japanese, you're not going to do business here, unless it's a very specialized field. You really need to be able to speak, read, and write, and not just conversational. For example, when I started my company, when I left SEGA, I needed to be able to read and write contracts in Japanese. We didn't have Chat GPT or whatever, where you could feed it in and hope you got the right answer, or a correct translation or what have you. So I had to learn those skills. I had to learn how to do the paperwork, how to do the things, create pitch decks and whatnot in Japanese. That was vital to me being able to run a company here, because I didn't have like a Japanese partner or anything. It was all me. So
Right, yeah. Because once again, yeah, you cannot even order pizza, right? And I felt that when I came here for the first time. Yes, I felt
okay.
so helpless, or I mean,
Oh,
it was difficult, really. Just, and things have changed, of course. I mean, we can see nowadays that more and more people are speaking foreign languages, not just
true,
English. They speak
true.
Spanish, German, and so on. But at the same time, I think that you can communicate with, well, Japanese people in your private life, privately in a different language. But when it comes to doing business, it's still Japanese,
Oh, yeah,
always, right? Yes.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah. So I'll go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I can't. Anytime, even if I've tried, like, some clients would be like, "Oh, let's try. Yeah, I want to practice some English. So let's try, doing our back and forth in English." And we tried, and then no, let's go back to Japanese. Okay, yeah, fine. It's just, yeah. I mean, now the younger generation is changing a little bit, but change is really slow here, especially when it comes to language, because of all the Asian countries, Japan is the one that a lot of people just don't speak English. They study it throughout, from elementary school on, but they study it like it's mathematics, right?
Right.
It's grammar. They learn lines like "this is a pen," like, yeah, we know.
Wait,
They don't learn, yeah, they don't learn how to communicate in a way, and they get shy about it because they don't grow up learning it as communication. They learn it as mathematics. And so now that's changing too, slowly, and I see younger generations being more proactive about it. But right now, still, the bosses and the bosses' bosses are still old school people. And so, yeah,
yeah, they are very much so, indeed.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because the other day I watched a movie, which is Rules of Living. And of course, it's a comedy, a drama comedy, or comedy drama.
Mhm.
And you mentioned this is a pen. And in that movie, so they referred to this phrase as the magic phrase or the magic key of teaching English in Japan, which is
Well, it's what is like subject or object verb, or I forget the order. See, yeah,
right,
Japanese
SVO,
people know grammar better than I do, but um, yeah,
right.
I remember hearing that this is a pen, and it's like, in my life, I've never said this is a pen to anybody, not even my kids. Like, "Hey, what is this, Papa?" A pen,
Right.
This is a pen, and my name is Mark, and
Right.
you know,
Yes, indeed. Okay, so and then well, you quit Sega, right? And what happened next then? So
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, sorry. The
you've
what
got some
happened?
experiences there, which I would love you to
Yeah.
share.
So what happened next is that I had never. It was never like in my nature to be like an entrepreneur or whatnot. I just wanted to make cool stuff. But I left Sega, and I thought, you know what? Why don't I use my experience and just try to make a small business to see how it goes? And initially, I thought it would be localization or something like that. Use my Japanese to English. I thought it would be more kind of a freelance thing. But I made a little company, an LLC, to um, just kickstart things. And then at that time, it was the exact time when Steve Jobs did that famous presentation of the iPhone. He announced the iPhone like it's a, it's a phone, internet device, and I looked at
Mm,
that iPhone, thought that might do okay, and then there were talks about you could make third-party apps for it, and so I thought, oh, okay, so I teamed up with a friend and basically started the company all out of pocket. I didn't have any investors. It was all bootstrapped. And we made an iPhone game. And I thought, and this was a learning experience. Um, I thought, well, it's Japan. I want to focus on Japan. So I should make a pachinko game.
ah,
And so, yeah, that was the first thing I made. Designed it. I studied pachinko, which is, it's not
right. Yeah.
anything I recommend anyone play. uh, but and I studied it and made an IP out of it and released it, and it bombed. And it bombed because I didn't really think about the device and use the use case for this device versus the use case of pachinko. Pachinko is a
Mhm.
game you play for at least an hour, hours on end, to try to get money, whereas phones are much more attuned to like quick hit kind of small puzzle games or things like that. And so I completely mismatched the
Mhm.
target audience and the target device and the target um, theme of the game. So it bombed. I was like, what do I do now? But the good thing was I had a proof that I can make iPhone games.
Right.
So or iPhone apps. And so I started kind of shopping it around because now the iPhone was starting to catch on. At that time, people thought, oh man, it's the iPhone. It's from the West. We got our cool flip phones that do everything we need. And a lot of people thought the iPhone would bomb here. And I was like, no, once you touch it, once you try it, you'll see. And people started catching on. And then people started wanting to make apps themselves. And so here, check it out. I can do it. It's not just lip service. It's not just me pretending I can do it. And I started getting work for hire gigs. And that's where I took the company to. And in the end, yeah, 16 years and about 300 some odd apps that we made.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot. A lot of them small, some big. It's of various sizes, but mostly work for hire. We did have one original that did kind of well, but yeah, mostly work for hire because it's a small business, all self-funded. I liked having consistent money coming in so I could feed my staff, my family, make sure everything's
Right.
good. And so yeah, that's kind of how the company went.
Right. So, what, from your perspective, then, were the lessons from all that experience?
Well,
Because I can tell you personally, I think that for me, listening to you, I thought, wow, that's great that you didn't give up from after the first trial, right? But what else did you learn there? What else did you take away from those years
well,
making apps?
yeah. Well, to go off what you said there, where I didn't give up because I was too invested in it, and I didn't want to go back to the corporate thing. I had to make it work somehow, and I knew I was onto something too. I mean, I knew the iPhone was going to work. I had people I could call on to help, to program them, to make art for them, sound, all of this. So I knew it would happen. So it was what I learned. One thing I learned is that um, when you make your own product, there's a lot of risk there. And for a lot of people, it doesn't work out. I mean, it's hard to make that work out, especially now when there's so much money put into advertising for apps. So I learned that, yeah, work for hire. If you have a good team and a skill set, that work for hire projects are going to almost ensure that you are going to have income.
Right.
And sometimes the projects go really well, sometimes they don't. Then there are ups and downs for sure. There are times where it's pretty lean, and then there are times where it's great. But just having a base of that kind of work for hire that you can always lean on, I learned that is important, especially for a small business. I learned that clients come in all shapes and sizes and just genres. It wasn't just traditional games or, I mean, I did apps for, one of the examples I like to use. I mean, there are standard fields, medical, construction,
Mm-hmm.
all those kinds of things, which I'd never known those industries, but it was really interesting to get to know those industries. But they all have different ways of doing things. They all have different kind of languages of their own. And so learning about those things. But one example I like to give, everyone knows construction companies, people, companies that build
Yeah,
buildings, but
right.
there's a whole industry based around making the scaffolding that you need to build
Mm-hmm.
the buildings. That's a completely different industry. Of course, they're adjacent, but and so the group, there's a kind of an association of companies that make scaffolding,
Right. Yeah.
and they contacted me to make a game for them about. In the end, it was you're a simulation that you're running a scaffolding company, and
Fascinating.
you build the
Right.
company. You start with just, you can only build little houses, and
Mm-hmm.
then eventually you're doing skyscrapers, right? But in that time, I was like, wow, I did. This is an industry I didn't think about before.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the 16 years plus of doing that, I've learned a lot about just different industries, and that's been really fascinating. Um,
Yeah, and then what are some of the trends then you have noticed in the gaming industry?
uh,
Because once again, you saw a lot of, well, you learned about a lot of different industries,
right,
and you created games. Your company created games for industries that you didn't know existed even. But
right.
then when you think about all these experiences and all those projects, have they impacted in any way the development of the gaming industry? And what trends have you noticed
Oh,
there?
yeah, big time. They've impacted the gaming industry. For example, when I was at SEGA of Japan, I was working in the arcade division, making arcade games. Right, this is when your game centers, as they call them here, were still
Right.
a thing, right
When you
now.
say, please forgive my ignorance here, when you
Yeah,
say arcade games, do you mean the games, well, that were played by, I mean, in Shotenguys here,
yeah,
like those hosts, game hosts for.
machines. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, all right. I learned something now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like for example, I didn't make this one, but if you've seen the Taiko game where people are
Right.
hitting
Yes.
Taiko
Yes.
around, that's an arcade game, and
Okay.
that's what I was working on
Thank
at
you for
my
the
time. Yeah,
clarification.
sure. No problem at all. And now that division that I was working in, they're pretty much all on mobile now. The
Ah,
arcades kind of died off as people started playing on their phones more and more. It's like, now why do I have to go all the way to the arcade and pay 100 yen? The calculation, when we made games, we wanted to give the players 3 minutes for 100 yen,
okay.
which is, it adds up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But then once people started playing games on their phone that they could buy cheaply or that were free to play, I completely upended the industry. The other trend was when the iPhone first came out, you could put out a game and there weren't so many apps, so people would download it. It was easy. You didn't even have to promote them that much. Then the big boys started coming in, the big companies, and
Mhm.
once they did, then and they had the big advertising budgets, and they started putting out games like Puzzle and Dragons and whatnot. Then uh, smaller companies, smaller game publishers just couldn't compete. And so now, if you look at it now, it's pretty much all the big major companies and the big major games, and it's become kind of boring, actually, in my
Right.
opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
the games are great, but of course they're designed to suck as much money out of you as they can. But when the iPhone first came out, I don't know if you had one, but there were just some silly apps, like the one where it's like you're drinking beer, and or it's the silly apps. Like I made one for a client actually. If you have an electric fan and you talking in, makes that kind of, it makes your
Yes.
voice sound like that. Well, we did an app like that. So it had an electric fan, and you talk into it, and it alters your voice, and that was fun. It was,
Right. Yes.
any silly idea could be, uh, you know, uh, a fun app. You can't really do that anymore. So it's kind of not as fun as it used to be.
Right. Yeah, because I noticed nowadays you're talking about apps again, and then when I'm on social media, and usually when I check the Facebook feed, and I
Yeah.
get so many sponsored ads there for different apps, and there, I mean, anything. It's about short stories, watching short stories. It's about reading short stories. It's about I don't know. I mean, all kinds of, and then, as you said earlier, so they're all designed just to funnel your,
Oh yeah.
money out of you, right? And
Hmm.
it's fascinating because I tried one of them out of curiosity, and it was about ultra shorts. Ultra shorts. So basically, it's a story which is broken into 1 to 3 minute episodes,
Oh, I
right?
see.
And then you have to pay for each episode, right?
Yeah.
To watch, and it's not that much. It's like 80 yen per episode. But then when you start doing that, and suddenly it adds up. So I, instead of doing that, actually I opted for ad
Uh,
the ad option. So I said, okay, I'm not going to pay. I'm going to watch the ads, and the ads are actually longer than each episode,
yep.
right? So this is the new model, or one of the new models they're implementing out there, and I was curious, so that's why I went there. But the funny thing is that I imagine that this is probably the model that most of the big companies creating those apps nowadays use.
Absolutely. It's kind of digital drugs. The first one's free. Here you go, and then
Yeah.
they try to get you addicted as soon as possible. And once they've got their hooks in you,
Hmm.
then they start milking you for all you got. And you'd be surprised. Some people pay the equivalent of thousands and thousands of dollars on these games. Some users, um,
Right.
and they just get so addicted. And so I've made some of those games in the past, so I'm guilty as well. But you kind of get to a point where as a game maker like myself, it's like, is what I'm doing right? Is this? But that's the mobile model these days, and you really can't just sell a game and have it be done anymore. People won't buy the game up front. They want the free to play aspect,
Right.
and so
Yeah.
it's changed a lot. Yeah.
It has changed a lot, yes. And I sometimes, personally, what I did, because I don't care about those apps and, the short stories and everything, and all, and the games and so on. So whenever I see such an app, I choose the option, to just hide it from my
Yeah,
feed.
sure.
Hopefully it teaches the algorithm, right? To not send them to me. But I also think that a lot of people are happy to do that, as you said.
Mhm.
And basically they end up, right, paying a lot. So yeah,
Right.
that's the model, the mobile model nowadays. And then right. So what else then? I mean, all that experience, the 15-year experience of running your own company and creating apps. So how has it helped you to think about your next move
Uh,
again?
yeah, very good question. So with that company, I kept it intentionally small. The company was called Mission One. So with Mission One, I kept it very small, intentionally, just a core group of four people, four or five people, and then freelancers or offshore and whatnot. And I kept it intentionally small because I wanted to work from home, which I was working. My team was working remote since when did I leave? Say 2008. You know, back and that a lot of people, a lot of clients would ask me, "Wait, you don't have an office?" It's like, you don't need an office. This is more
Yeah.
efficient, and we pass the savings on to you. So it took. Now everyone, because of the pandemic, everyone knows that you can work remotely, and of course that gives Japanese clients they want to have more meetings with you because that's what they like to do. Anyway, that's an aside. Uh, but so I kept it intentionally small because I was raising a young family at the time as well. So I didn't seek investment to grow and whatnot. But the downside to that was didn't have an HR person. That was me.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't have someone who's doing payroll. That was me. And if I got hit by a bus, my team wouldn't know what to do. We didn't have another producer of the games. We had
Mhm.
programmers and artists, but we didn't have a producer. I produced every one of the apps. And if I get hit by a bus, that's going to ruin the lives or the livelihoods of my staff. And so I came to a time where I'm like, well, let me start exploring M&A and see if there's any interest for a company like mine. And eventually there was. It took a while because a lot of Japanese companies would look at me and like, well, they're just a service group. They don't have any IP or products that we can inherit, which was true. But then I met a company called Next Vision out of Hiroshima. And our values seemed to align, and the president and I got along well. And I thought, okay, let's do this. And they're a company of about 100 people, and based in Hiroshima, but they wanted to start a Tokyo branch. And so Mission One basically became that Tokyo branch.
Right.
And we worked with Hiroshima pretty closely, not so much directly on projects, but now my company, Mission One, which is now Next Vision Tokyo, we have an HR group, we have accountants, we have
Right.
all that. I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. So that's the benefit. The downside is that they're a Japanese corporation, and I'm kind of back into the thing where I'm having more meetings than I like and more paperwork than I like. But I'm willing to take that for the team. But that said, I'm looking at what the next step is, and I got some plans on that.
Right. And if you don't mind me asking, or if you feel comfortable
Fine.
revealing what the next step is.
Yeah. So right now, the winds of change are blowing. App development is not what it used to be, and AI is obviously the big thing. Now with AI, a lot of people are misusing AI. I think they're using it as, for example, well, you see all the news stories where like we're laying off a bunch of staff and replacing them with AI, which is the stupidest thing you can do because AI is just a tool, right? It's not.
Right. Yeah.
You can't replace people with AI. In the game industry, some companies are wanting to, instead of hiring an artist, let's just use AI to make the art and whatnot. And again, it's just a tool, right? So all the uses of AI I've seen up until now haven't hit me. But now I'm working with a company called Dynamics Lab. They're out of San Francisco, and they're run by, without giving too many details, they're basically PhDs in AI. They're genius AI people. And when I started talking with them, they described what they're doing. And there is a demo out. You can look it up. It's called Mirage 2. What they're doing, they're wanting to create worlds but let anybody be able to create worlds. The concept being you can add a picture and a prompt, and then that picture will come to life in a 3D world that you can walk around and you can change as you'd like. It's really amazing technology, and that's so I'm their lead designer now, helping them kind of mold that technology. and it's really fascinating stuff. And then to me, this is a use of AI. Now we can use the AI so that anyone can make a game, because making games is hard. You need programmers,
Right.
artists, and game designers and all this. But if you can just, with pictures and prompts, you can create something, and then you could share it via something like a TikTok. It's like something like a TikTok or a YouTube idea where anyone can create content. Some of it's going to be terrible. some
All
of it,
right. Yeah.
and some of it's going to be great. And so this is kind of where I want to explore. I think it's kind of the future, and it's not a hardcore game type thing. The idea is that if my mother could put pictures of her grandchildren in and have that come to life, and she could talk to them, and or the summer vacation photos come to life, and like, oh, remember that? Then that's a great use of AI in my book. So.
Right, yes, because I also can imagine that, well, as you said, some of the content created there would be terrible and maybe not appropriate for everybody to see,
Yeah.
right? So, but these are ethical aspects that basically they should be considered by, I think, authorities and governments, right? And probably the platform managing teams, but not designers, the designers who are creating the or enabling people to use the technology at the moment. I think it's still too early there. But also, okay, so you mentioned that you created applications for smartphones and also games and so on. So it took you like between several and 15 years, right? To
Yeah.
understand that now, well, times have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the creation of smartphone that created that opportunity for you
Right.
to set up the company and also to run it and so on. But don't you think that we are once again at the same or similar, very similar point with AI as we were with iPhone 15 years ago?
Absolutely. That's it for sure. And like the example with iPhone, back in the day, you'd see what new apps are out there and you download them, try them, and it was exciting and all that. But I don't know about you, Maya, but I haven't downloaded an app recently unless I needed to, like,
Same. Yeah.
right. It's, you don't go looking for apps. You're forced to download them, and that to me means saturation, right? uh, that's, we're at the point where apps don't turn us on anymore. They're just, yeah. Whereas AI, it's on the cusp of, well, it's already there in some respects, but it's really exciting. And there's a ton of companies, a ton of people trying to do new things with it. And a lot of it will not stick, but at least they're interesting ideas, again, that people can go out and look for. And so that's, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Right. And because once again, as you mentioned, I always, well, when I'm prompted by a shop or maybe an institution to download their app, I always say no, thank
No.
you, regardless of how big the discount, their discount is, and so on and so on.
It's annoying. And then even so, you go to Uniqlo to try to buy something. It's like, are you a member? Do you have our app? I'm like, get out. I don't want
Yeah,
it.
whatever.
I don't want it. And then it's become bad. Like, this isn't apps necessarily, but when you go to a lot of restaurants now, they want you to scan a QR code so you can look at the menu. I don't want to do that. I want a menu that's big and delicious looking, and I can go
Right.
through it and I can order what I want. I don't want to be scrolling through. And what if I didn't have a smartphone? I mean, there are people who don't. And so I don't like where smartphones have gone.
Yeah, me too. And I also worry because, for example, the generation of my mother-in-law, they even, well, she has a smartphone, right? And still she cannot use it. I mean, for her, it's just beyond her skill set to scan the QR code and to go through the menu. And of course, their eyes are not good anymore for that small
Oh,
screen, right?
yeah.
So, and how do you expect those people, and they're going to be, bigger and bigger part of the population as we go forward. So
Yeah.
how do you expect them to do everything on that small screen, right? So, for example, at home, we help her with any administrative stuff that she needs to do with the kuyakusho and everything. But I mean, going to a restaurant, you're just
Yeah.
cutting off a big part of the population as a clientele, right? Because they don't like that. I personally, as you say, I prefer to have the paper menu or any menu where I can see the beautiful pictures of the dishes there and choose, based on the pictures. But
Definitely.
yeah, it seems that we're moving into a direction that, far away from basically physical menus and everything.
Yeah, and I like technology, but yeah, it's a much more pleasurable experience when you have a menu that you can look over and with somebody say, oh, that looks good, right? And you can uh, instead of something like where like, what do you think about this? Does that look good to you?
Yes.
You know,
I see myself, I catch myself actually whenever we go to a restaurant nowadays. I catch myself looking at the tables around and trying to see what the people around me are having, the
oh
real
yeah,
stuff, and
right.
then search search it in the menu, the digital menu, because that small picture, even though I can see it, still it's just it doesn't look appetizing at all.
Not at all. Not at all. And I've walked out of restaurants where they're like, we're QR code only, and we don't have a menu. If you don't have a menu like that I can look at, then yeah, I'm out. I'll leave.
Yeah,
And as you said, yeah, especially for the older generation, like my mom, she uses a smartphone, but uh, when I look at the screen, the text is giant, right? Now, how's she
right.
supposed to enjoy a menu, and it's just not there. And I think that's where smartphones and people and companies and whatnot have just taken it too far.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I do hope that there will be a pushback and there will be, a higher demand
Yeah.
eventually. They will realize that there is higher demand for human interaction and
Yeah,
also, yeah, physical menus, to say the least, right?
right. We got to fight the fight. Come on, everybody. If you're listening to this
Yes,
now, fight the fight. Don't do the QR code menus. Say
right.
no.
Say no to that. And ask your, yes, waiter to come to you, right?
That's
And
right.
yes,
That's what
talk
they're
with
there
you.
for.
Yes, indeed. So, and Mark, then let's talk a little bit about setting up a company in Japan,
Okay.
if you don't mind, because you already have that experience, right?
Right.
And how
Twice actually. So yeah.
twice, yes. How was it for you? And because I believe that you have set up two different companies, and you did that at different times, right?
Yes.
So have there been any changes and any developments in the process? And what was difficult? What was not? What was funny too?
Yeah.
Right? So,
I'd like to say there are changes, and to a degree. So, whenever in 2008, when I first made the company, there's a lot of paperwork to do so, and you couldn't do it online. And so I hired a professional who did that sort of thing, and just gave it all to them. They set it all up, did all the paperwork for me, got my stamps, because that's an important thing. If you work at a Japanese company, you need to have your three types of stamps. If
mhm,
it's not just your regular hanko. You have to have all these little stamps.
right,
And even if you don't use them, if you do all your contracts digitally, just to get other paperwork that you need, you got to have your stamps. Boom, boom, right?
right,
That's still old school, and it's still like that today. But so anyway, I hired somebody to do all that for me, and I hired a tax accountant because I don't want to dig through tax laws. So I took the approach of hire professionals to do things. Don't spend, it's not just hours. It would be days and days of studying before you could do it yourself.
right,
Um, but I found the process. So they've got two types. They've got the kabushiki gaishas, which are the corporations, and you got your goldo gaishas, which are LLCs. Making an LLC is easy, and you don't need a bunch of capital. You could make it ostensibly with just 1 yen
right,
for
yes,
starting capital, and so the process was easy. Uh, and I chose the LLC for that reason, just to make it easy. Now, fast forward to this year, actually. I, in order to kind of pursue some of these new avenues of user-generated content and AI, I decided to form another LLC. And this time, I saw online that you could register online. Well, okay, I'm going to try to do it myself. Big mistake, because when they have software, but this software is ancient. I mean, it's like it was made for Windows 95, and I'm not even joking. The help files were that Windows 95 looking help file. It's all just walls of text, no intelligent search or anything like that. Well, and I had the Mojibake on my machine. Mojibake, for those who don't know, means like if your language setting, or what's the losing the word, but the encoding setting,
right? Yeah, it's different, and then
it's different. Then you get a bunch of gibberish, and what certain screens would be fine, certain screens wouldn't. It's like, and then eventually I went through the process and I registered, and there was back and forth where they told me, oh, you got to change this, edit this. Okay, fine. I did it. I mean, it took a long time. And then in order to finalize your software, you need to, or your submission, you need to do a digital signature on it. A show may show, as they call
right,
it.
yeah,
A digital certificate. And they had software to do that too, but it didn't work. So the other option, well, there are two. The other option was, they said, you can burn your files on a CD.
okay,
Take it to your local office, and in a week or two, we'll get it back. We'll send you back a CD with, your files all signed. Like, who has a CD drive these days? DVD drive. Or the other option, which I finally found much later, is that you can, if you have one of those digital card readers, you could use your My Number card, which is your ID card, and you could sign it with that. And that was actually pretty easy, but I had to buy a little card reader, which, when am I going to use that again, right?
right, yes.
So you see that Japan's trying to be a little proactive in that. Okay, we'll let you do it online on the information super highway, but then the methods to do it are ancient, right? And
They are, yeah.
and so it's still like there's still a lot of old school stuff going on here, and it's not. Yeah.
The core processes are still what they were. I remember when I was applying for a corporate bank account, and of course it was first I had to apply for them allowing me to submit the application.
yeah.
Right? So it's not you go online and straightforward you apply for a bank account. First you have to get the permission that you have been approved to apply for the application.
Right.
And that went online, but then from there, basically they told me that I was approved, and they said, okay, we're going to send you postcard with a code which you have to use on this interface online, right? And then so that you can start applying, you can start actually the process of application. And from there, once that I submit that application after I received the physical postcard, okay, and entered the code and everything, and then they decide, okay, now let's have an interview. And the interview is going to be online, it's going to be a video call. And we are going to send you, a link for the video call. They sent me the link, and when I tried to access the platform, it didn't work. So the person who was interviewing me couldn't see me. So he said, okay, now we're going to do it via your phone, right? But you have to actually speak to the camera of your phone. And it wasn't a dedicated platform anymore, right?
Okay.
So, which was really funny. I mean, it was like a jump, from the digital world to the physical world, and then once again to the digital world, online and everything. So it it was a fascinating experience to me. And I see that, as you say, they're trying to be proactive, right? And they still need some time to do everything in a smooth, very seamless way.
Definitely. Yeah, it's exactly what I mean. You expect at some place, along the line, there'll be now jump through this flaming hoop like you're in a circus, right? It's just,
Right.
yeah. I wrote an article about this, a little self promotion, if you don't mind. I have a website called Cellucci.world. So my last name .world. I wrote an article detailing the entire process with
Mhm.
screenshots, and if you're interested in looking at that software, if any of your viewers are, you can see just how Byzantine it
Mhm.
is. Um, yeah, it's like nothing's easy, right? Nothing's smooth, but
Nothing is
yeah, it's part of the
right.
process. So
Yeah, but I still think that everybody here is trying to be very helpful.
yeah,
So the processes are kind of clumsy. They are old. They are not, once again, they are not seamless. But when you talk with individuals throughout the process, then everybody tries to be helpful.
that's very true. And I had nothing but good experiences when I was talking with actual people.
Yeah.
And that's yeah. There's nobody kind of trying to stonewall you or say, okay, you're not qualified, get out of here. It's not like that. Me being American, it's like whenever I go to America and go through customs, everyone's like, next, right? Here in
Yeah.
Japan, it was like, oh, okay, it's very polite and people are just trying to help. And that's part of the culture. I just wish they could figure out their software stuff and their processes a little bit, but we'll get there. I'm might not be alive then, but we'll get there.
Right. Right. They will get, we are getting there. Let's be a little more optimistic.
Oh, that's true. That's true. The future generations are climbing, stepping on our backs in order to get to where they can apply online for a business and in a few easy steps. So
Yeah. But what is your advice? Because you tried the two ways of setting up a company. First, you hired a professional to help you doing that, and then the second thing is you went online and did it by yourself. So, which way would you recommend to new startup owners?
if you have the money, hire somebody to do it. When I did it, back in the day, it wasn't that expensive. It was like 20 mon, so 200,000 yen or so. It wasn't bad at all, but the price has tripled.
Mhm.
And then when I saw, okay, you can do it online, it's like, then I'm not going to waste that money. I can do it myself. If
Right.
you don't have the money, your choice is to do it. And if you read my article, it'll help you, so you can use it as a guide. But but you have to be able to speak and read Japanese. There's no English version. Uh,
Right.
so yeah, generally hiring somebody is going to be what you want to do. And if you're trying to start a business here, again, you're going to want to hire a tax accountant, especially because you don't want to deal with that stuff. It's just too. I mean, people, that's their specialty. You can't be nearly as good as them. And you want, when it comes to money and taxes, you want somebody good. You don't want you doing it.
Right. Yeah. And it saves time. It saves effort, energy.
Big time.
So, yes, big time indeed. All right. And so, if somebody wants to connect with you and talk about projects and about, well, the new AI business that you're working on, the design, right?
Right.
Where can they find you and
Um,
how can they connect with you?
yeah, a couple different ways. One would be LinkedIn. Look for Marc Cellucci. There's really only one of me. There's actually one other Marc Cellucci in Boston. We've talked on occasion way back in the day. He's like a real estate guy, I think. So, but look for the bald one, and that's me. So LinkedIn would be good, or also my website at Cellucci.world. There's a contact form and you can drop me a line. And yeah, I'm definitely open to hearing about projects or if there's anything I can do to help your business or what have you. Yeah, just get in touch.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So to everybody watching now, listening, maybe multitasking too. Remember, Marc Cellucci, he's on LinkedIn. Marc is on LinkedIn and you can find him there, or his website at cellucci.world.
World, yeah.
Yes, World. And do not hesitate to reach out to him, right? Because you never know. Personally, I had a conversation a couple of months ago with Marc talking about gamification of websites and everything. So you can get his advice about this too. And I don't know, there are always new ideas coming up and so on. So definitely reach out to him, message him, and maybe visit his website too. I'm sure that everybody who visits the website can reach out to you through the website as well, right?
Correct.
Yes,
yeah, a
great.
contact form you can use, and it goes directly to me. So yeah.
Wonderful. And Yuka, good morning. So thank you very much for watching. Hiroaki, to you as well. Good morning. And for commenting here. And Nobi Blanqueza, good morning to you too. Well, I hope that this conversation was interesting to you all. And if you have watched it, let us know that you have been there. If you watch on YouTube, hit like, subscribe, share as well, because there are some insights here that may be useful to your friends who are thinking of coming to Japan, setting up a startup or business company here. And also, once again, do not hesitate to reach out to Marc and talk with him. So, Marc, thank you very much for today.
Thank you, Maya. It was great. And I look forward to talking with you again.
Me too. Yes, let's continue the conversation. I'm curious to hear more about the new project you're working on. And if you're open to talking about it, let's do it again. Let's talk about that.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Okay, so have a great midweek to everybody, and we'll see you again, very soon.